BIC episode number 113 on this scintillating edition. We'll talk about our latest silly card of the week. We'll have a little bit of fun with that. One of the cards is going to lead into a little mini discussion. So it's going to be a couple of little mini discussions. And on top of everything else, a new sports card documentary has graced us. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit as well. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. Here we are under the watchful eye of Brett Favre. So, a couple of quick hitters off the top for this section here. One of the ones that I want to touch on really quick is a segment that I'll call, well, at least Eric didn't jinx Detroit again. Because he couldn't. Technically he couldn't. It's not like he didn't try. It's not like he didn't try, yeah. So, we did have the two conference games that ended, and I did a little watch along for the AFC Championship with the astute observer would have noticed that I put a little reference to scripts in the bottom right-hand corner. Mwah, chef's kiss. But nonetheless, we did watch those games. The AFC Championship game was at least a good game. So I'll just hit on it really briefly. I enjoyed the second game much more than the first one. The first one kind of became a blowout. Unfortunately, no luck for the commies, so they're out on that. So we've got our Super Bowl matchup figured out. It's going to be Philadelphia taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Kansas City Chiefs going for the three-peat. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I want to quickly get your thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup we have. Are you going to watch it? Are you going to ignore it? Or are you going to watch the watch along live that I will have during said Super Bowl?
I'll start.
Please.
I'm going to be blatantly honest here. I did not watch either game yesterday. I pulled the ESPN app up and we checked the scores here or there, but I kind of mentioned it in the Discord. Once, and this isn't to be a sourpuss loser or anything like that, but once Baltimore was out, my interest was kind of gone because
shocking.
It was pretty predictable of what the outcome was going to be. There was hope there that maybe Washington, because nobody expected them to beat Detroit. Eric jinxed them. We see Eric jinx was real. Because, the way that they stomped Detroit, they should have been able to manhandle Philadelphia, but that did not happen. Mm-hmm. It was the reverse. So, but the KC thing, personally, watching Buffalo in that Ravens game, even with all of the mistakes, that the Ravens had, if you want to just pin the game on that, Buffalo barely escaped that with that many chances to put them out of the water. Kansas City is a polished team. They're a winner. They've won, 2 Super Bowls in a row. I didn't think Buffalo had what it took to go into Kansas City and win. They made it a close game, so give them credit for that. But the NFL, the way I described it in the Discord, and I've told some other, hobby friends and stuff about it, the NCAA got boring when Bama was winning all the time. Like when it was Alabama, right? The NFL is becoming that way where it's the same team winning all the time. And it's alluded to Mahomes and Kelsey, right? And Taylor Swift. Somehow she's became more popular than like 50 other guys on the Chiefs roster. And people would want to compare, and I even made the mention of if they do the three-peat, well, then you're looking at like kind of Bulls, hysteria, and Jordan and all that stuff. But in basketball, at least Jordan was playing both sides of the ball. You also had a 12-man roster and not a 53-man roster. So it gets boring when the same team's winning constantly. So I just kind of felt it was predictable. We kind of, and that's the other thing. When the game starts becoming predictable, it takes away the excitement of watching it because you kind of expect who's going to win. So I watched other things yesterday that took my interest. So,
all right. So before I go to Eric, I want to quickly. So let me pose a question here, since Brandon brought this up. So he's talking about. Now, here's the interesting thing. What Brandon's talking about kind of flies in the face of the whole complaint about the structure of the NFL, where okay, we can't overpay for these quarterbacks because then you can't build a good rest of the team. And I go, well, all these teams have that same restriction in theory. So I'm looking at it going, and let me just go from Super Bowl 45. So I'll go from Super Bowl 45, the last time the darkness led the Green Bay Packers to a Super Bowl. So Green Bay, the Giants, Baltimore Ravens with Wacko for Flacco. The Seahawks, the Patriots, yes. The Broncos, the Patriots again. The Eagles, the Patriots, the Chiefs. Tampa Bay, the Rams, the Chiefs, and the Chiefs. Outside of the most recent time period, which again, we're a couple of free agent cycles away from that no longer be. And by the way, no one's ever won 3 in a row. Outside of the current era, right now, it's not like anyone. I just read off a couple different teams. Like we actually, for the most part, have actually had different teams, and even a couple of the teams in there, a couple of teams could knock off the Chiefs. They had chances, so it's. I don't think it's fallen into the one sidedness the way that you're describing. I think there is a fair bit of parity. It's just so happens that the Chiefs are able to navigate it pretty well currently, but then
Well,
they start
no,
having the
but
wrong injuries at the wrong time next year, and they won't win again.
so outside of yesterday's game, what game did anyone think that another team had a chance to beat the Chiefs?
So
Because they
outside
only
of the
played
last
one
game,
other game, and nobody thought Houston had a chance in hell to beat them.
no, I
Most
agree, but
people
they
knew that Buffalo was going to struggle, and and I'm not even talking about with the refs or anything like that. Like I just sat here and said, I did not think Buffalo was a talented enough team to beat Kansas City. And when you're speaking of the structure, yes, Kansas City had a full season. They had a great season, 15-2. Okay. They put themselves in that one seed to have the
yeah
bye week.
they gave
They put
themselves that
themselves in
advantage.
that
That was
one
part of the
seed.
point. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm not taking anything away from the Chiefs. I'm saying the game has become boring because I don't care if the Chiefs win. I don't want to see Taylor Swift up in the box. I could care less about that. And when you were naming those teams, remember Tampa Bay was Brady, and Brady won 7 out of his years, which was a damn pretty big chunk. He had 2 others that he lost, to the Giants with Eli. So it does become even back in the 90s. I mean, the Cowboys were winning what they have 3 in there. Like they were the dynasty back then and everything. So it does get boring when it's the same team winning the championship over and over. And I'm not saying it's every year, but the game, even now, how many times do you hear people, and we see it in cars, we're going to talk about it later, and tinfoil hat and all this other stuff. But even now, people are saying more and more and more that the games feel rigged. We didn't
So
hear that
Brandon, so
years
one quick
ago.
thing. I want to quickly touch on this then, since, like I said, since we're talking about it. But then, by your definition, the definition you just gave, then football has never been good in the Super Bowl era ever. The Packers won the first 2 Super Bowls. Then in the 70s, the Steelers won 4 Super Bowls. In the 80s, the 49ers won their Super Bowls. The Washington football team, before they became the commies, they won 2 in the 80s and 1 in 1991. There have always been teams that have won 3-ish Super Bowls almost every decade. So it's not just one, it's literally the whole run. So then football's never been good. Then why are we watching it at all for the last 60 years?
And I have self-appointed said that I haven't been as interested in the game of football in a very long time. I have self-admittedly stated that.
Well,
My
Brandon, though,
point is
what I just
I
said is
had
that by
no
definition you
interest.
should have never been interested your entire
No,
life.
I played the game. I played football and everything. I had interest. I've also said the game has changed, and no one can deny that the game hasn't
I'm not
changed.
saying no, but I'm saying the phenomenon that
I
you're talking
cannot
about a team going
stand
on a sustained run
the
has happened every
current
decade.
day, the way that it's throw the ball downfield, hope for a flag. Like the penalties and the rules and all of that stuff that they continuously change in the game has made it disinteresting for me.
I got that, but I want to make sure I'm separating 2 things though. If you're talking about the game being boring, then if Baltimore had gotten to the Super Bowl, it should still be boring, except your
I,
team's in it.
do you want to know how many games I watched this year? One. Last week. One. Simple.
Yeah. So that's why I say, like, I want to separate 2 things. You're talking about you're bored because the same team is winding up in there. Well, the thing is, then beat them. And even in the Super Bowl last year, Kansas
My
City won by
point
3
was, and I
in
said it
overtime.
right off the bat,
Yeah.
I had no interest in watching those games. I had no interest in it. The majority of people knew who was winning those games. What the hell? It's an analogy I made. If you sit down, a new movie comes out, you sit down and you know the ending 5 minutes into it, do you really want to sit there and watch the next hour and a half, 2 hours of it? It's already spoiled. It becomes boring. It literally becomes boring.
All right.
The game, I
Eric,
could
I don't
sit
know.
there
I got to
and
be
watch
honest.
the
I can't.
score on the app just as easy as wasting 3.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever, watching the damn game. It
Yep.
becomes boring.
Eric, I don't know. I can't get it with him on this one because his answer is to make all the teams mediocre. All the teams should basically be 8-8. That's the only solution.
It's more fun
Everybody
watching a
sucks.
shit team beat a good team than it is the same thing over and over and over.
But
Yeah,
Brandon, the only
Hell, how
way
many times do you see in the Discord people saying, "Oh, who is it, Dustin? Oh, look, a Patrick Mahomes scramble," because it's known it's going to happen. Like,
Brandon,
it's just boring. It's boring.
Brandon, the only way an underdog can win is a team has to be good. You just said you don't
You
want
can
good
have your
teams.
opinion. I can have mine. You ask my opinion.
I got it, but you gave me two contradictory opinions. You can't have
I
it
didn't
both
give you any
ways.
contradictory. I said I had no interest in it, and the game has gotten boring. That's not
But by your definition, the
contradicting.
game's never been
If
not
I
boring.
think it's boring, then I am not going to be interested. That actually is the opposite of contradictory.
All right, Eric, what did you think?
Baseball, there's nothing more boring than that. That's fine.
That wasn't the question, Eric. I was talking about
anytime I can just bash baseball, I jump in. So
look, listen, baseball. I agree. Baseball doesn't have the rigness of hockey, so we'll get them to work on it. They'll do it on a soundstage somewhere, just like the hockey games are. But we'll do what we can, one step at a time. We'll get there.
Well, I thought the games were very exciting.
Wait, even the commies one? Because the commies one kind of got out of hand real quick.
The commies one, you thought, I like the drama. All right.
The drama?
Drama.
Okay.
I like the drama. So, Philadelphia got up on them, and you're like, this is going to be horrible. And then all of a sudden they came back a little, and you're like, well, maybe, right? So they're, right? And then
visual representation of a hook. Look at this guy.
And then Philadelphia goes up a little bit more and goes, yeah, well, that's it. It's over. And then all of a sudden they came back and scored a few. Oh, yeah. So it kept, even as the score was going up, you were waiting for the third time that Washington was going to, do something to get a little closer. So I thought, I thought Washington played well. We all knew that they were going to lose. I don't think anyone was shocked by that, but I thought they played well, and that was entertaining. And, but there's definitely no surprises there. In the big game, last night, that could have gone either way. I disagree with Brandon saying that it was, that Buffalo didn't have a chance. I think they totally had a chance. I mean,
they had the ball with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left with a chance to tie or win.
Late in the fourth, they were, but also late in the fourth, it was a tie game, right? So, I mean,
it was, yeah.
So
Kansas City had to get the field goal to get the lead.
And if that last second catch was made, they're right there on the 10-yard line or some ridiculous thing. So
if Mark Andrews had caught the ball the week before, then we were going to overtime, and hell, Buffalo might not have been there. My point wasn't that particular game. Yeah, it was a 3-point game. Okay. Yeah, they had the ball towards the end of the game. Okay. I said Buffalo did not have it. If you looked at them the week before and the amount of mistakes that Baltimore made, the flag that gave them a first down on third and whatever it was to put them in the red zone, okay? Combine all of that together, and they still barely beat the Ravens. The Chiefs are two-time back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They went 15-2. They had to go into Arrowhead. Buffalo could barely beat the Ravens, who were kicking their own selves in the ass, dropping passes and fumbling footballs. It was kind of obvious that they weren't as good of a team as Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't think you actually have to be the better team to win the game.
Oh,
I don't think anybody says the Commies were
No,
better
of
than
course
Detroit.
not. Any given
Yeah.
Sunday, anybody can win.
Yeah,
Hell,
literally
Washington
Detroit
beat
can make that.
Detroit.
Other than
We've
Eric's
seen
curse,
that.
Detroit had everything they were supposed to
My
have.
point is, see, y'all aren't like comprehending what I'm saying, obviously, because I was saying, looking at Buffalo the week before,
yeah.
there was no question. If I was a gambling man, there is zero chance in hell I would have put money on betting that Buffalo would beat Kansas City. Zero chance. There is no, so there is, you're telling me there's a chance? Hell no. They looked terrible. They could barely beat Baltimore, with Baltimore basically giving them the damn game. Anybody would know that Kansas City is a better team than
Eric, this is your chance. This is your chance.
in their own
2001 New
home
England.
field. In their own home field.
Yeah, I think Buffalo looked a lot better yesterday than they did, but because it's a different game, they didn't have to worry about the run as much as they did last week. And I honestly believe that if they ran Derrick Henry more last week, Baltimore would have won. I
agree with that.
I don't understand how you have the most dominant running back in the last decade. And you don't just run the ever-living crap out of him on a freezing cold night. Run him until he dies. And they didn't.
Well, part of that was because the entire first half, which is when they got down 21-10, Buffalo came out and was stopping him. Second half was a different story. They did run Henry, but they were having to come from 11 points down at halftime.
It just would have. They wouldn't have.
I mean, when the guy's getting 1.5, 2 yards a gain, like 2 yards a carry, you're not getting a first down. I mean, they were stopping him in the first half. They were stopping him.
Mm-hmm. So the predictions episode will be next week. So Eric, brace yourself. Figure out a way to jinx Detroit. I'm not sure how you'll do it. I believe in you. I think you can.
I still pick Detroit to win the Super Bowl.
Well, and by the way, you do have that. Let me make this clear.
All right.
I used to love football. I just don't like all of the stupid ass rules. Like, they're literally talking about the Patrick Mahomes rule. There's the Brady Tuck rule. There's all the
the Brady Tuck rule is the one that ruined everything. That's my argument.
The whole play with the Chiefs and Bills where both players had a hand on the ball and the ball touched ground, and they have convoluted so many things with the rules and everything else to twist the game around. That is the part that really takes away a lot of my passion for football. I don't like that part of it. Okay. And that's what drew me away from enjoying the game. You know,
I think if you're a Buffalo fan, you're pretty upset today with those, with that call. The ball's obviously touching the ground. He didn't have possession of it. If anybody caught that, it looked like the Buffalo wide receiver had more control of it than the Chiefs cornerback. And then you had the whole fourth down thing where clearly he got the ball to the line and the refs had two different calls. And then they went with, give it to Kansas City. And they wonder why there's this big conspiracy theory going on that, that the league wants Kansas City to win so badly, and there's all these jokes about, because the game before last week, you had, that whole 15-yard penalty where two guys looked like they were going to sandwich Mahomes, but they hit each other. Mahomes never got touched, and there was a 15-yard run. And it's like, you can't call roughing the passer when the passer never got touched.
Not with that attitude, Eric. Not with that attitude.
Then in the Ravens game, Lamar Jackson gets hit like 3 yards out of bounds. And the excuse was, well, the defender was already in the act of going to make a tackle.
Right.
That hasn't been an issue in the past. If the player gets knocked way the hell out of bounds, it's a 15-yard penalty. If you're going to call these rules, call them equally. That's my point that I was trying to get at earlier, and why I say that the game has become too predictable and too, in essence, boring. I can watch my team, but I don't have interest in watching other, I had no interest in, because I could care less if Philly or Washington won, and I could care less if Buffalo or Kansas City won. I had no comment. It's kind of like my whole thing with cards. I've like scaled down to paying attention and collecting, enjoying the things that I want. And so I really had no interest in it. The Super Bowl, if I watch it, it'll be because that's a tradition thing, commercials, the halftime show, whatever. I'm not even sitting here saying I'm going to watch it because I really don't care which team wins.
But you know what people should watch, Eric? They should watch the live watch along.
Oh, the live watch along is going to be just amazing, from what I understand.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's
plus the time show on the live watch along. I mean,
I tell you, like you won't even believe who I booked for that. You won't even believe it. Like your minds will be blown. That's it. We'll do our predictions coming up next week. Folks in the chat, folks in the comment section, you're welcome to give your predictions ahead of time. I will say I'm not going to officially lock in my prediction. I think you know which direction I'm going to go. But I will say this, Eric, if the three-peat happens and Kansas City wins, the salt will feed generations. And I got to say, that is kind of appealing to me. The salt the salt mine will run 24/7, 365.
I honestly don't even mind if they win it and get the three-peat. We grew up in three-peat eras, whatever.
Yeah. I actually don't mind it because it would be historic. Like Philadelphia winning doesn't actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Good for them, but okay, good for you, but I don't really care about you.
But to Eric's point about what he said about Baltimore, I really hope Philadelphia, because they didn't run him a ton yesterday, and he still had 3 touchdowns.
It was 3 touchdowns.
I hope Saquon Barkley just tears the entire damn New Orleans Superdome or whatever they call it today, Mercedes-Benz, whatever the hell that stadium is down in New Orleans.
The place near Baton Rouge.
He runs the whole damn turf off the field and just stomps all over them.
I do too. I hope he just
300-yard game. Let's break freaking records.
Yeah.
Eric, I have a feeling like if it was me, if I was Kansas City, it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do against Saquon? Oh, we're going to put 11 in the box against them. Jalen, throw the ball. Throw it.
I hope he runs for 3 touchdowns, catches a touchdown, and throws a touchdown, and has 300 yards rushing.
There you go. For the entertainment value. I like it. All right. Brandon, you know what will make you feel better? You know what makes everyone feel better? The silly card.
AMG Collectibles. Let's go, Brad.
That's right. That's right. That's what I'm saying. This was an impassioned moment. We appreciated it. But you know what makes everyone feel better?
The CFL.
The silly card of the week.
No.
Well, listen, that makes Eric feel better. That's a different conversation entirely. He is a big fan of the Rouge. But we got AMG Collectibles, AMGcollectibles.ca, and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. Go.
On a serious note, though, if y'all are huge football fans, if you're Kansas City fans or Philadelphia fans, congratulations and good luck.
Indeed. Predictions to come next week. AMG Collectibles, if you check out the YouTube channel, the links are in the description. If you check it out, they actually, on the trade night that just happened this past week, they opened up a box, well, actually 3 cases of WWE Flawless. Super high-end brand, very interesting. And they pulled a 1-of-1 autograph of a WWE Hall of Famer. On the thumbnail, it kind of gives you a little bit of a hint, but you can check out the polls from those boxes, live vicariously through them, enjoy it. It was put on the YouTube channel, it was archived. Originally, it was on Instagram Live, but it was archived on the channel, so you can check it out for yourself and check it out. Brad having a little bit of fun trying to figure out who some of the people were. And then, of course, enjoying the names that he recognized. Listen, we got Rick on standby right there. We got him.
Okay.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fantastic. So you can enjoy that. Check it out. It was live from the trade night where they did it. So it was a good time. And then there'll be the podcast episodes this week coming up here. The lives have gone on hiatus indefinitely. Sherry and Brad have a lot of stuff going on, so understandable. But the podcast episodes will continue. And we will be talking about new products that are coming out and stuff that came in the store. So if you want to enjoy that and check it out, we thank AMG for supporting the podcast, the channel, and the Silly Card of the Week coming up right now. All right. So here we go. Since we got Silly Card of the Week, last week's poll had 36 votes, so thank you for participating. Let's see if we can get that back up to where we were in terms of vote numbers, but we thank you for your participation. We had the Raymond card, formerly Wander Franco, but with a little bit of Photoshop work. That one got 17% of the popular vote. The Aginla ping pong, where he did not miss leg day, 33% of the popular vote, but y'all know what it does. The people, 50% of the popular vote needed a tractor from Brett Havre in their lives. It was a strong one, man. It was a strong one. You did not make bad picks, people. You did not make bad picks, but it's tough to be a good tractor. Tough to beat a good tractor.
John Deere's been around for a long time. And there's a lot of love there. So
Now this week, I think we're gonna have a little bit of fun because I'm gonna show you that one of the cards that we're gonna show this week, and again, there will be a community post with all 3 of these cards. So we're gonna showcase them now. And Brandon had a couple of questions about his card, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. But the last of these cards is actually gonna lead us into a little mini discussion as well. So I want to share the cards. We're gonna get into it, and we'll show you. So this is this week's silly card of the week. We're gonna start off here with this one. So Eric, we're gonna start off with yours. So
All
this
right.
is the back of a 1991-92 Upper Deck card. He's stuck with the regular Upper Deck. Bernie Nichols in a suit.
yeah, they did a lot of silly shots for the back of the cards on this year. So there was several to choose from actually. And I would assume this is their practice arena. If you look in the background, it doesn't look like a super high end place that they did this photo shoot at, but it also, this is what his second year with the Rangers, so he's got his red, white, and blue Rangers gloves on. I just think it looks ridiculous. The guy's wearing this, probably an Armani suit or something because he could afford it.
Well, he couldn't afford an Armani. He got an Armani, like you said. I think the problem is, Brandon, my concern is that, look, I think our good friend Bernie Nichols has fallen on hard times. And you know how I can tell? Let me just show you. I'm actually going to show you on the card itself here. Do a little flipperoo. So you see his stats there? From the heights of 70 goals and 80 assists for 150 points in 88-89, big time season for him. I think that year he was playing with Gretzky.
Yes.
But he would have been playing with Gretzky in 89-90, and he had a big drop-off. 27 goals, 48 assists, 75 points. Although in 47 games, that's pretty damn good. That's actually not bad at all. Overall, not bad. But falling on some hard times, got to be honest. I would prefer this to be more tapered. I think what Eric was offended by in his bouginess is that this could have been a tailored suit. What's with all that extra fabric flapping? This is not professional.
I want to point out, and not to take away from the silly image, but why can't we get the effort on the card anymore? Like
Hashtag
an
effort.
image on the back of the card, a hologram, stats. We had so much going on back in the day.
They're crazy times, man. Crazy times. So that'll be included as part of Eric's submission. Mostly, like I said, because he's offended by the lack of tailoring on this suit. Really, Eric gave you a lot of smokescreen, but really, he's offended. He goes, "Guy, taper it. Taper the pants. Taper the jacket. Something."
Way too much bagginess in those pants, and I don't like it.
Agreed. So now we got this one here. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So this is from 2002 Fleer, from I believe Fleer. So we got that. Matchmakers, Kurt Angle and The Rock. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this? And then there's a question that I believe you had that I think we have to give the answer to. So go ahead.
So you are correct. I went wrestling, and I am not the most notable of the wrestling figures on here. I watched it when I was a wee little one, but then I kind of went away from it. But this I felt was perfect, especially with our conversations a couple weeks ago. When I seen this, I first thought that maybe somebody was just having fun. But it has a relic, authentic event used, and one of the relics, the Kurt Angle relic, and I don't know why, so I don't have context for those if you're wondering, because I am wondering myself, of a milk carton. And then the Rock's piece, it says of a shirt, but, obviously the Rock doesn't have a shirt on in the photo, so I'm assuming this was their walk-in entrance, and maybe Kurt Angle drank him some milk, or I really don't know. But they used a freaking piece of a milk carton. So I was trying to see if there was one out there with Eric's picture on it that got squeezed in there, but I couldn't find it. So
Brandon, I'm going to help you out. So we're going to assist you because Eric does know this reference as well, but we're going to fill in the gaps. We're going to hashtag scholarship this thing. We're going to do it. All right. So this is, like I said, 2002 Fleer, and it is making reference to something. And I want to share this with you. So real quick, for those of you who remember the Attitude Era, you would remember Stone Cold Steve Austin and the infamous beer truck. Because
Yeah, I
in
know
one of
that
many
part.
stunts, all right, this is going to play into it. So in one of many stunts that were done back in the heyday of WWE, when they tried a lot harder back in those days, Stone Cold Steve Austin drove in a beer truck and sprayed Vince McMahon and his entire faction with beer. Well, only some years later, Kurt Angle, in the midst of a character, because his character is always a little bit goofy, even at his best, it was goofy. So Kurt Angle drove in on a similar type of segment, and in that situation, he drove in a milk truck. So after successfully spraying his adversaries with milk, he then concluded which again, remember the Stone Cold Steve Austin reference, he concluded by dousing himself in milk. So you see, like this. So you see, much like Stone Cold, an homage to Stone Cold, but with milk. Very dairy friendly.
If I remember correctly, he was, I think he was a baby face at that point.
Yes, for this particular stunt, yes.
So he was a baby face, and he was the anti Steve Austin. You know, Steve smashed beers and got drunk and swore and all that. Well, you know, because I wouldn't call him a heel. He was an anti-hero.
He was more of an anti-hero, yes.
So Angle, being the baby face, you know, didn't swear and, you know, fought for his country in the Olympics and, you know, gold medals. And so
with a broken freaking neck.
Yeah, that is true. That's freaking amazing. So instead of beer, he wanted to kind of be the good, wholesome guy. So he had milk.
He did.
Because milk makes the body strong and the bones strong and does the body good. So as Austin's smashing beer cans, Angles.
But did we ever get a beer can relic?
That would have been the next logical step. Unfortunately, Fleer didn't have the license long enough because, as you can see, they were willing to go there, Brendan. Fleer was willing to go there. Maybe if they had more time with the license, they would have been able to go there. And as a close off to this, again, we're hashtag scholarshiping this thing. When Kurt Angle was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, at the conclusion of his speech, he concluded it with a milk bath.
Yeah.
As a callback. A callback.
Even after all that, though, let's be honest, a piece of milk carton. I get it now.
At least it's event used. At least event used, man. You complained about could you imagine, Brandon, if it had been a manufactured milk carton? That would have been offensive. That would have been obscene.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if you could shine the light through and it says, like, I don't know. You mentioned
Katie from accounting. Katie from accounting. This was in the office. They grabbed the wrong card.
Elementary school name. Like, it's an elementary school milk carton.
So there you go. So that, Brandon, is the story behind why the Kurt Angle milk carton that is deep cut, but it in fact is a reference to something that Kurt Angle does have in his history. So there you go. All right. Last one here. And I'll explain the context here.
Oh, I like
that. So Eric, allow me to tell you a little story that is this is an upcoming set. So this is a mock-up. Well, in the great spirit of the same people that brought you SP Signature Legends, one of our favorite sets of all time, for comedic purposes.
Yes.
Well, Eric, there is a brand new set that is coming soon. It is called Engrained Icons. It is a legend ingrained set. And amongst the different mock-ups that were included, you got highlight tapes with a VHS. And I figured this would appeal to Brandon too, being a man of the VHS. We got a VHS here for highlight tapes. Ran Francis from Hartford. It is a super high-end version, basically, of SP Signature Legend. It looks like it's going to be all alumni and legends and icons. And we got ourselves a tape, but where's my Betamax?
I'm a little confused here.
So it's
the center rectangle, is that
that's a piece of stick. That's a piece of stick. That's a piece of stick.
No,
it's the stick tape.
Yeah.
That's okay. I was just making sure that I was seeing that correctly.
I like this. I know that, you know,
it's not bad.
I've been down on some of the corny stuff that they've done, and you know, and some of the stuff is so corny and ridiculous, but I actually like this. I think it's pretty neat.
A play of words and throwback with the VHS to the older players. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And yeah,
All right.
I highlight tape on VHS because that's how they had them, you know. So I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah,
You gonna be kind and rewind, Eric?
you got to be kind and rewind. Yeah, absolutely. I,
Indeed.
I've just bashed some of their ideas for so long. I might as well like one of them. So I'm going to choose to like this one.
Now, what's going to be funny is we're going to find out that this is the one Billy didn't come up with. And it's going to be like, you trash all my stuff. It's like, Billy, what do you want from us? I don't know what's that. So this is going to be my contribution towards this. We'll see what it ends up looking like when you get it, when it's available to be seen in hand. So we'll see. But when I saw that, I was just kind of chuckling. A good old VHS. When I saw this, Brandon, I just thought, you know, with your recent foray into VHS, I thought this was thematically appropriate. This literally came across my feed. I was like, you know what? This worked. And we got a Hartford Whaler there. Like,
yeah.
Eric, we've got a couple of angles. We touched a Venn diagram.
I've seen them do worse.
Oh yes.
I want to throw another one, and if he happens to listen, because I was critical a little while back. I think the artifacts, antiquities, are well done. It looks like stained glass, but they're acetate instead of like some of the stained glass stuff we're getting today, where it's just colors on a chrome card. So kudos to those. I do think those look pretty nice. I always like the clear acetate look with the stained glass look to the cards, and there's several companies that have done them, but I actually like the look of them. I think those are pretty nice.
Yep. Now here's my question. Part of selecting that one is because it literally did come across my feed. And just looking at some of the stuff that Upper Deck has dropped with, you know, their marketing copy, that was one of the mock-ups, obviously. And we'll see what it looks like in hand and everything. Here's my question, though. This is why I wanted to finish with it, so I could lead into a question. By the way, there will be the community post. Y'all can vote for whichever one you want. Let us know what the silly card of the week is. Thank you for your support. It is the only true democracy in this world. So enjoy it. And don't forget to cast your vote. So here's my question. I don't mind the concept. Here is where I'm posing the question. Number one, my criticism with SP Signature Legends was that I had an issue with you doing the set. The issue that I had with it is obviously because you did SP, it was going to be a little bit more expensive. It was going to be more in line with that because you had your all-time Future Watch, which obviously were a big hit. People paid good money for those, fine. But Engrained is already a super high-end product. We just got Engrained. You've got Legends in Engrained right now. Like you literally have Legends in Engrained. So it's not like you don't put them in there. In this case, I guess the argument is, well, you can put even more alumni, which means you could get a little bit more into SP. Now imagine SP Signature Legends, Eric, but let me double the price. Because this is going to be one pack per box, and it's going to be either 5 or 6 cards. It is Engrained. Think about what Engrained is, this most recent Engrained issue. And now imagine you can't get any of the rookies or any of the prospects. It is going to be all Legends, and potentially, we'll see what the checklist looks like. We'll reserve full judgment until the checklist shows up. But imagine you've got your Gretzky's, your Brian Leach. I'm just looking at some of the examples here. Brian Trottier, Ron Francis, like they showed in that example, that mock-up. Wah. There was a Lemieux Coffee dual name stick. So cards like that are going to be massive. Like a dual stick plate, 1 of 1 with Lemieux and Paul Coffey. That's a massive card. That's huge. Stuff like that is going to be great. But here's my question. What if you wind up with some of those like, really? Because you're going to get alumni. So it's like, I don't know about that. I don't know. $300 US a box minimum, probably. Guessing. Just guessing.
And it's just the Legends.
It's Legends and Alumni. This one is Engrained Icons. So I'll read what it says here. This product features nothing but the best stars to grace the NHL. Again, we'll be the judge of that when we see the checklist. Right. Filled with retired superstars. Collect the 100 card base set that will bring hockey history to life with each box open. Again, when you're doing 100, let's see what you actually do. We'll check the checklist and come back with it.
And I love products like that. I love Legends stuff. I love getting the older, superstars to, get autographs and game use stuff. My desk is full of it. It's all older guys, with memorabilia and autographs. My favorite thing.
$300 a box.
The only thing that we had a problem with SP Signature Legends is the name. you are telling people, because not everybody does their homework like I know you do, and Brandon, I think you're pretty good at it also, where they look at the checklist before they go and buy it. They go, oh, here's Upper Deck signature legends. Okay, there's got to be Gretzky's and Orrs and Lemieux and Lafleur's and Howe's
And some of
and
those guys were in it, to
and
be truthful. Yes.
and you open it up and you have Hal Gill.
Hal effing Gill.
Hal effing Gill. And the cards were really nice.
They were.
The product was great. It's just calling it legends and putting, third line defensemen on the checklist makes no sense.
There were
I
guys
mean-
we literally had to go to Hockey DB reference because between
we had to
you,
look-
me, and Brad, we could not figure out for the life of us who the hell these people were.
So that was the issue. Because listen, I like the idea of a set of having those third line guys, because there's not a lot out there, and a lot of times those are the local favorites, right?
That was so. Remember when Billy was on? I said if you had called this SP Signature fan favorites,
yeah.
I think that's that.
Well, I think
then go
Archives
for
does
it.
that in baseball.
Yeah, but Brandon, I think if you say fan favorites, then yeah, go for it. This guy was a local legend. This, fans will remember him fondly, but he's not a hockey legend overall in the whole
That's
sport.
the only issue I had, because the cards were great. I actually liked the idea of having a lot of these lesser known guys who played in the league, with autographs, memorabilia, all that, and I thought the idea of it was fantastic. I just didn't like the name of the product. So with this, it seems as if they're with the name of the product plus what they're putting in there is gonna make sense. So therefore, $300 a box and you're getting Ron Francis memorabilia. That's pretty good.
Well, that's why I say I want to reserve full judgment. So I want to get your take on this, Brandon. Again, we're back to the original issue that I had. So let me elaborate so we're all on the same page here. What Eric just said was that our main contention was that you called it SP Signature Legends in a set that felt like SP Signature fan favorites and some legends too. That's what it really felt like. This one is Engrained Icons. Yeah. You're not even doing legends. You're doing icons. You're taking it up another level. Yeah. Do you have 100 icons? Because the checklist is 100, and this is a higher end product.
If it's Hal Gill again, I'm sorry. Excuse my language. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that you could, when you've got legends that has a certain connotation. So Brandon, maybe it's just semantics. But when I think of icons, that list gets a lot smaller. Who I consider like the true icons of the sport gets a little tighter checklist. That isn't to say some of these guys are not. I have a feeling with a 100 card checklist as opposed to a $300 or $400 card checklist, we're going to cut out a lot of the borderline guys, and a lot of these, they're going to be out. So I have a feeling the checklist will be top to bottom a lot stronger overall. But then we also bumped up the price accordingly. So now we're looking at like I said, you're going to open up a box. Remember, Engrained is feast or famine now, today. And that's with the product today that includes the current folks, and we're sprinkling in there are plenty of legends in the current Engrained. So now we're relying only on legends. So, and you're talking about an expensive product where you're paying like $50 a card, basically, give or take. $50 per card is the average on this, out of the box.
If I'm guaranteed cards like what was shown with a true icon, with a Hockey Hall of Famer, legend at 3 different franchises, I'll have little to complain about.
Okay. Well, I can give you the on average because they did include the configuration breakdown here. So one pack per box, 6 cards per pack. So for this 6 cards on average, you will get 2 base set cards. So consider that immediately dropping your value per card. That's huge. That's going to drop you quite a bit immediately. Then we'll add 1 numbered base set parallel or carved in time. The carved in time look cool and everything, but depending on who it is and what it is, it might work, it might not work. That may not help you. The numbered base card also may not help you, depending on who it is. Again, we'll see the checklist. The remaining 3 cards are your autograph and or memorabilia cards, which could go a lot of different ways. It could be really good. It depends.
Those $300 for 6 cards.
6 cards, $50 per card on average.
Yeah, I hate when they do that. That's the whole.
It's a really high ask, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I hate when they do that.
I'm
crap.
trying to look at this in an open-minded perspective. Obviously, I know, I'm not deep into the older hockey guys. I know some of like obviously Gretzky and that kind of stuff, but I'm gonna swing it over and look at it as if this was a baseball product, because that would be something I'm more familiar with. And my biggest issue that I see, I don't know how large the audience is for just a retired player set, especially at that price point. With it sounds like potentially you could get 3 base cards, one of them being numbered or a parallel, and then 3 other cards that could potentially be relics or autos. The more of the retired guys or the legends, icons, however you want to phrase it, that gets made, I feel like it draws down the value a bit, because you're adding more and more into the marketplace of these guys, so their stuff becomes more available. And I apologize if I seem distracted. There's somebody outside just laying on their horn, and I don't know who the hell it is, but it's been going on for like 5 minutes and annoying me, so I apologize.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the topic. I think it's cool. I think it will have some people that'll like it, especially, and this isn't a knock at him, but someone like Eric that prefers the older guys, the retired players and that sort of thing.
I think it'll be good for single hunters. I think it'll be good for singles.
Yeah, right. But I don't know what, like, I'm assuming this is going to be a breaker product, because I just don't know how many people.
I think it's too expensive.
Yeah, like, and this isn't to like just throw shade at Upper Deck again, but when you are already like you're having certain products that are struggling to move, what is your buyer pool on like your shops and that sort of thing? Like, how much are they really going to want to order at an I don't know what the shop like price point would be, but if it's 300 MSRP, obviously they're going to be paying a pretty penny for this, and they have to think like, how much of this can I move without it just sitting taking up shelf space? So I mean, I could be completely wrong. It could be something that flies off the shelf. I'm trying to envision it, and like in baseball, unless you were loading it with like Aaron, Mantle, Mays, like those guys, if you were putting in like Rod Carew and just average name players like Cal Ripken and all of that, and you're telling people, well, we're going to give you 6 cards for $300, and 3 of them are essentially kind of glorified base cards. I don't know how many people would want to pay that. Like that, I'm just trying to think of it in that perspective. I think it sounds like a cool product. That card looked cool. I just, and again, I'm not going to say that I know how big of a portion of the hockey market is interested in that kind of thing versus new product or new players, like current modern players. I don't know. I'll be curious to see if AMG gets cases or something, how well it does, or like seeing people open it, because it looked interesting, but I'm just that price point to me seems a bit high for just retired players.
Yeah. And by the way, just so we're all on the same page, I am speculating the price point just based on what the other UD Engrained was. Like I'm taking brand to brand, product to
If
product.
it
Like,
if it was like 150 and not 300, I
sure,
think that would be a lot more appealing, because then even if you did have some lower tier guys that maybe aren't as exciting as Hal Gill, people might be more interested in it, so but you get my point. Like, you got Gretzky in there, he's going to be like your big name or whoever. And then if you had some lower tier guys in there, it's not quite as a bit of a pain in the groin area, if you don't hit a nice guy. 150 would be a lot easier to swallow. So
sure. Now, can I pose a question? So let me touch on this. So let me give two pieces of information and pose a question. So first one is you talked about baseball and a similar kind of thing. So back in '99, Upper Deck came out with a set called UD Retro, if you remember it. So it was a legend kind of, Hall of Famer legend theme kind of set. It was inside of a lunchbox. They were going for that it's called UD Retro.
yeah,
They were going for like a retro theme and everything. So back then, those were 24 packs per lunchbox, and the packs were MSRP of $5 a pack. So
so
$120 for the
120 a
box,
box.
which
Yeah.
isn't, and again, you're getting 24 packs. You got a base set of 110 cards. You got parallels. You got some inserts. You could get a Ted Williams piece of history card. So there were chases and stuff like that. That to me feels like a legend set. You're still getting a little bit of a couple different things, some parallel, whatever. Okay. Now, so that's one consideration. Again, I'll reemphasize my ingrained number is not based on anything more than just looking at the ingrained brand and following with it to similar kind of thing that every time Upper Deck does one of these types of products, Black Diamond or ingrained or whatever, the price point is somewhere in that vicinity. So go ahead,
It's
Brandon, and
because,
then I
I
got a question for
mean,
you
I
guys.
mentioned breakers because anytime you're seeing these one pack low
Yeah,
number of cards in a pack, that is structured for your breakers.
correct.
If a case is 12 boxes, well, you got 12 packs to open, and 36 of the cards potentially are base cards. So you only have really 36 cards to show, sleeve, say who hit it, and sort it out to ship. That's a breaker product. And when you have that breaker product, you can inflate that price point a little bit because they're going to be moving it in a broken down, parted out format to run their breaks. So you're probably about right at 300, especially if the other one was in that range. So I don't think personally it would be for me.
Mhm.
If there was a player I like to collect and on a team that was reasonable, you know, I could see it being something fun if people wanted to chase in a break to hit, a particular player or something or team that they collect. But to go buy a box, I just don't see the audience for it. Not a
Mhm.
big audience anyway.
So here's my question, and I'll ask both of you. So based on this, though, and you touched on it, Brandon, with what you were saying. So that's why I want to pose the question this way. So Eric, my thought here is that you're almost getting two demographics and you're kind of working against yourself. It's a weird mix that you're two things you're doing that are contradictory by nature. And by that I mean this. You've got a retro themed checklist with legends and icons. Let's give them benefit of the doubt. Let's say this checklist is tight in that 100 cards they're able to pick. They're very careful. So even someone on the lower end of it is still someone who would be Hall of Fame equivalent. Let's make sure someone at least is on the cusp, someone that is either on that Hall of Fame list or maybe just Alex McGillney would be like my floor. He would be somebody who like you could make an argument should be in the Hall of Fame anyway. So somebody in that or above. So
Yeah.
or above. Okay, so we got that. But those collectors tend to be singles buyers. Do those folks, that demographic, who might be particularly interested in that kind of thing without a rookie chase, without one of those things, is that the demographic that strikes you as people that want to participate in breaks?
I know that I guess I fit in that category, and I'm not interested in participating in breaks. So I would
And to
I
Brandon's point, though, this format screams that breaks makes most people are not buying boxes that are 6 cards.
no,
That's not the regular kind of box. That UD retro that I just gave you, 24 packs, 6 cards per pack.
yeah.
That's more of a box configuration that makes a little more sense for a legend set. This is not that. This is more of a closer to what Brandon said. It's more 6 cards is kind of a breaker product.
Right. And then they're going to immediately sell those 6 cards and to individuals, because I mean you'd have to be really wealthy to spend $300 on 6 cards and keep them in your collection. That's just so much. Not everyone can do that. So most people are spending $300 and then try to move them to either get their money back or try to make a couple of bucks more for individual sellers. So yeah, I guess breaking would be the way to go, or cracking them open and putting them on eBay as singles, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what else are you supposed to do with them?
Yeah. But if you go breaking route, though, that tends to be more on the gambling side of it, which
Right.
is not necessarily the demographic
I
that
wouldn't.
would be targeting with this checklist, Brandon. Do you get what I'm saying? Like the checklist and the group of players that you're talking about here tend to be more your established kind of old school collector that probably is that it again, there can be crossover. But I'm
Sure.
just saying the crossover isn't as natural for this person who would be keen on this type of checklist to then also be a big breaker. I feel like I'm dealing with two different audiences. I've given you a checklist for what should have Connor Bedard in it, but I don't. Instead I have, I have Ron Francis and I have these other guys, Timu Solani and players of that ilk, which by the way, great. I'm suspecting Medano's in it, so for me, I'll still be interested in the singles. I'll go on eBay and but here's the thing: in Ingrained, the new one, Eric Medano has cards in the new one. So it's almost redundant. Like he's already in that Legends rotation. They'll throw him in those kind of sets anyway. So
Yeah.
I didn't need UD Engrained Icons for that.
The other struggle, though, is if you're creating a product that nobody wants to open because of the price point, and even if it is structured to do breakers have to have a target audience. Like if it's
Yeah.
people that aren't interested in paying to buy into the break of an old guy set, then you're going to struggle to find singles because the product isn't going to be opened. So it is quite interesting to see this placement of it. I would have thought, why not just add in some of the guys into the already, like make some subsets of the stuff. And you said Medano's already in the regular Ingrained, so I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been difficult to add some old timer retired guys into that set and just kind of extend that product a bit, because I think that's more appealing, because then you got the mix of old and new, and it can be moved in the breaker format. You might have some people that are wanting to crack a box open. This one, it just feels, the 24 pack box where it's a collector style set where somebody wants to sit down, open some packs and build a set or whatever. That feels like more that angle. I just don't know if this fits that area. And that's just me personally, because it would be like having Flawless with NFL players from the 50s or something. And that's all they had. I don't know that your target audience would be receptive to it.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is, and again, this is purely a guess on my part. We'll reserve full judgment for when a checklist shows up. When a checklist shows up, we'll understand more. And I think at that point we'll take a closer look at it. Because I am curious, legitimately curious. But I think what I'm wondering though is just on the surface, just looking at it, I'm like, this feels like a product that is going to be looking for its audience. There's going to be some interest in certain, like, again, there may be interest in specific singles. You're a big Lemieux collector. That Lemieux, the dual stick card with Paul Coffey on it, would be like, it'd be a massive card to chase. Huge. It'd be massive. You're a Patrick Waugh collector and you want the Patrick Waugh auto, for sure. No doubt. But what I'm thinking this is purely me thinking, because you've got the alumni icon on there, and again, SP Signature Legends is a product that included a lot of interesting names that would have applied as more fan favorite, but it was kind of a way of giving the Players Association a way of getting some of their members an opportunity to participate in that and get them a check for a product, because today you may not think of that person, but by including them in there, they got a check for being participant of that. And then you've got this super high end brand. I'm wondering if a couple of those guys will sneak in, even because I said I can't think of 100 icons, Brandon. I can think of star players from different eras that I may have enjoyed watching, but they're not all icons. It's not. It's not. It's again, the branding is what's weird to me. And I'm
Mhm.
also looking at a high end brand with what looks like a limited audience, but it looks like a breaker product, which requires more gambling. But my audience that might be interested in it isn't necessarily into gambling. So I'm like, where is my audience here? You're giving me conflicting messages right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Um,
Yeah.
and even after the checklist and everything, like even if it is a decent checklist, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it moves, like what the reception of it is, based especially this is basing it on a $300 price point. Again, if it was 150 and it's vet guys and cool stuff in it, I could see people going after it. 300, 6 cards, 3 of them likely a base type card. I don't know who's opening that.
Yeah. We'll reserve, like I said, we'll reserve judgment on the final response on it. But my initial thoughts are, maybe I'll encapsulate it like this, Eric, and you tell me if I'm off base here. My initial thoughts are I'm perplexed and intrigued. I'm intrigued. I'm curious. Like I would like to see it, but I'm also perplexed. I don't understand. I'm getting two completely different messages here at the same time, and it's almost like, so who specifically is the audience for this? Because I'm not sure. There will be interest in some of the cards and some of the singles, but I also don't understand who's going to be buying these boxes. Not all of us can afford the fortunes of cases and cases that Eric will be buying.
Right. And a 14-year-old kid is looking for, like you said earlier, is looking for Connor Bedard,
or Celebrini if you want, or whatever. Pick the newer players, whatever. That
Or
makes
even
sense.
McDavid. I mean, he's from 15.
McDavid, of course.
He's a modern day star.
So, I don't know how many would get excited about Ronnie franchise, or even know who he is. I'm talking about like 14-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
It's with legends, it's for guys like me then.
The other thing that I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, as they put more of these guys in, like in products, it's awesome that they still include them. But as more of it gets into the market, and I'm sure you see this sometimes with Medano, as things go, like the prices don't retain because it's like more and more of it out there. So again, if it's $300, you have to think, well, do I spend $300 to chase a guy from this product, or I just go on eBay and buy a really nice, memorabilia auto of whatever kind for, 30, 40, 50 bucks maybe, so that has to play in there too. If it's a collector, which way, like I might be able to go buy 6 different guys, really nice cards, potentially even low numbered, or 1 box, so
yeah. So
I can create my own 6-card box at the same price and get cards that are really nice that I already know what I'm getting, so.
Well, I think even given the recent years, like I said, if I'm sticking with the bigger names, they've been put into some of these sets. I want a Bobby Orr autograph. I can get a Bobby Orr autograph. I've got options. I've got a good number of different options.
We're probably
I want my
less than
Medano.
300.
Yeah, I can get a Bobby Orr. I can get a Medano. I could get a couple of guys that would qualify as definite legends and I could get their on-card autographs and everything. Like I can get these things. They're out there. If you're willing to shop around and be patient, I could build you. Maybe not even necessarily 6 cards, but I could get you 2, 3, or 4, and within your budget, and probably get you some nice, cool-looking cards. I get. What would be a name that would be on there, Eric? That would be a very logical name. A guy like Mike Gardner.
Oh yeah.
Marcel. Well, guess what? I can get you Mike Gardner and Marcel and toss in Medano, and I'll get you a Bobby Orr, and I can probably do it under $300. How's that? That's a pretty good list of players, right? That seems decent.
Yeah.
Good luck beating that in your average box.
Yeah.
Of this.
Right.
So it's like
that was kind of what I was, talking about with the price point, because that comes into play, especially, again, if only 3 of the cards are speculative to be relic auto or relic or
some
auto
combo
or
there,
whatever. So that cuts your price point down even further of potential possibilities. So I don't know, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Good luck to them. I think it's an interesting concept. I want to see it play out. and I want to see some of these cards in hand and take a closer look. And some of the engrained cards look really cool. So like that portion of it, I know is true from the regular engrained. So we'll see how they turn out. But we thought it'd be worthwhile to have the discussion because I figured you guys would have a couple of thoughts on that one. All right, let's touch on one or two more things here, and we'll get into it. There is a new sports card documentary coming up. It is called Hobby Hustle. Eric is mentioning that he knows of someone who may have appeared on this. I will include a link in the description to the Sports Collectors Daily article on this. So I'm intrigued, as I have been known to do on this channel. I do like to do a little mini review. The release date is February 16th. It is supposed to go out on Amazon and Apple TV. So when it does release, I will check it out. I'll give you a quick rundown of a couple of things and scroll through the article really quick. So apparently it's going to be a runtime of 2 hours and 35 minutes. So it looks like a full length documentary. So fine, cool. The director is a guy named Michael Dolt. I'm not too familiar with him, but fine. But the release date is coming. So they call it Hobby Hustle. And apparently I'm going to use the description here. It's a documentary about the sports card industry. It begins with a montage of voices celebrating the card collecting hobby. I always worry about this being an industry fluff piece because I've used that criticism of some of these before. But apparently there's supposed to be, again, based on this, there's supposed to be a mix. So he goes here. This is a quote for him. There's a lot of good in the industry. Dole took Sports Collectors Daily. But there's also a lot of things that are not good. This movie is kind of a hodgepodge of everything. That's a key. I want to see what the mix is, how much of the darker side of it or the more concerning side of it do you include? You want to celebrate some parts of the industry? Sure. But you're going to include some of the other stuff. And that's going to be, the mix is going to be kind of interesting because that's been a criticism of some previous hobby documentaries where they've left some of that out. So initially his film would focus on autograph forger Cliff Panizek, who flooded the market with tens of thousands of ultra-believable forgeries that resulted in 2.5 million in losses to unsuspecting buyers. Which that's great. That's a little bit of something that
I think those
always
were
included.
Reggie's.
Maybe.
Better not be.
And Eric had bought them all, so
At least 2.4 million out of it, yeah. It delves into his upbringing, his initial enterprise as an autograph hunter, and his eventual descent into the criminal underbelly. I do appreciate a good narrative, so that's good. And then apparently they'll touch on some other stuff, the COVID shutdowns, the stop production. And then here you've got F1 collector La Tonya Hampton, who is a big F1 collector. So you want to include some of these collector profiles and also the black swamp vine. That is something that I am familiar with. So if you're going to include some of that. So it looks like you're hitting on a lot of different things. He says it's a hodgepodge. That's what it sounds like based on this brief description. Number of different topics being hit on. I'll be curious to see how it's weaved into a narrative because a documentary that's done well is a narrative. It kind of goes from topic to topic and theme to theme and shuffles around.
Yeah. And in 2 hours to go from F1 collecting to the Black Swamp and then to...
It's asking a lot. You're trying... It almost feels like you should have multiple parts to really be able to hit on this.
Like 2 hours, it's got to be pretty rapid because that's right there. Just that little bit was definitely a big mix.
Yeah. So I think it's good. I'll be curious to see. I'll reserve judgment to once we get a chance to take a closer look at it. Bonus for me. AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers appears in the movie. Bonus. So already, listen, if you're trying to pander to me, Eric, it's working. I'm just saying.
It's not AJ.
I might be 5% nicer. I might be 5% nicer to you than Herr Director. Just saying.
I would get confused. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, pretty much. So we'll see. I don't know. I do love me some hobby documentaries, though. I've enjoyed the last couple of them that I've had a chance to watch. I'll leave the link in the description to you if you want to read the breakdown. They wrote a whole nice article giving some pieces in this. So that's good to know. February 16th. So not too long from now. So we'll see basically what ends up happening with it. And I'll be happy to check it out and I will report back my findings. So we'll definitely get a chance to talk about it some more once I get a chance to watch this thing in the middle of February. So we'll see how that one plays out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, some of these have been good, some of them not so good. It's interesting to get these made because it's something obviously we're very interested in. Rarely is there any new information for us because we kind of living it, but there still can be entertaining and I think. I know we're all, negative anyway in the hobby, but if anything, I think we judge these things by how many negative things we find in it. Not how positive it was, not how accurate it was, but I only got frustrated 2 times during watching it, so it was pretty good, you know. So that's how we watch these things. That's how
Are we
we
talking
watch.
about football again?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's like that's how we watch the Golden Touch and how we watch these other documentaries and informative things, and stuff on YouTube is and even quick things we see on Instagram is how many times did I get angry
I
and while
Speaking of that, like not the angry part. I don't know. Do you get on Facebook much, Eric?
don't have never had a Facebook account.
Okay, and I know Carlos, you've said that you're not on there much.
Only a little bit. I've gotten into it a little bit more since I've been able to participate in a couple of groups for the wrestling because it's allowed me to make some deals, so it's been good for that. I do check those groups. I try to stay in my
I
lane.
don't get on there very often anymore, but it is amazing how you don't have to be on there often, and you literally can just open the app and
Mhm.
start scrolling through some of the card groups and just
Sure.
read some of the questions that are being asked. And then even worse, reading the comments that are the answers to the question. And then you have to just immediately start asking, like, I don't pretend to know everything, but some of it is like, how in the hell did we get here? Like, some of the simplest things that, especially in the way that things have progressed into the hobby today, it's just like, holy shit, how did we get here? So when he was mentioning the way that the anger or that sort of thing, like frustrations and stuff, I just kind of like look at it, and sometimes I just have to laugh because you have the question first of all, and then you have the responses and the answers underneath of it, and it's just like, wow. So
So real quick, I want to touch on. To be honest with you, right now I'm just looking. Let me see how much time it is because now you've given me down. You've taken me down a rabbit hole. We may come back to the skeins. No promises. Hold on, hold on. I wanna go here for a second, Eric, because this hits home close to my heart because I actually had a couple of questions that were submitted to my YouTube channel literally yesterday. So
Okay.
so since you brought this up, I actually now you hold on. I might go full Brandon on an
how the
NFL here
hell
in a
did we
second.
get here? This might
I
need to
listen.
be a new segment. How
All
the
I'm
hell did
saying.
we get here?
All I'm saying. All right. So here's my thing. I'm not going to pick on any individual person because when I get a question, I'll try to answer it. And I believe it or not, I try to be very patient as much as I can be. But what happens is that frustrates me. And I'll just put it this way. What frustrates me is when you ask a question, you have a question, you don't understand something, that's perfectly fine. Because I understand as well as anybody else, and we understand some of the stuff here is really complicated. Some of
Mhm.
it is legitimately. The fact that I have to go into in-depth explanations to explain some of these checklists that are multi-layered, multi-tiered. So if someone is confused by that, not only do I understand, I sympathize. I'm in the weeds. And I have to take a moment and really read it carefully so that I understand it, so that I'm not giving you bad information. And even then, we'll make mistakes, 100%. Like sometimes we misread something, but we'll try our best. We're trying to be as honest about it as we can be. But I will take the time to read those checklists so that I understand at least as best I can. So that I'm not just giving you bullshit. I'm not guessing. I might have read it wrong, but it wasn't because I was guessing. I tried sincerely to get it right. But here's the thing. There are so many times where you'll see a question and you'll see it on your Facebook to your point, but sometimes you'll get it directly. I've been direct message stuff like this. Oh, is that card numbered? And again, I have no problem answering the question, but at the same time, the image of the card is on the screen. Do you see numbering on the card?
Mhm.
Now, I also put it in my caption. So to be fair, I also put it in the caption. That's right. But I put it there as well. So if it is numbered, I do make a note of it on my posts because that's something I feel like is useful to people if they're. So before you even ask me, all you have to do is read my caption or look at the card. I gave you the picture and I gave you a caption which gave you the answer to that question. Got a question the other day, and the question was, do you know offhand how many Panini, how many WWE sets were made by Panini? Because he's trying to figure it out, and I'm sitting there like, it would literally be a 4-second Google search. to get the answer to that question. They didn't
They
make,
probably
they
trading
made
card
a,
database probably have it.
yeah, they do have it. And you know what? And in this case, like I said, I'm going to try to be helpful where I can be. But in this case, I literally directed them to a website called wrestlingtradingcards.com. It's literally called wrestlingtradingcards.com. They specialize specifically in this. By the way, as a quick aside, it's a great resource. The checklists that these folks have compiled are actually used by PSA and SGC and CGC as well. Because in some of the more obscure sets, they're the only ones who compiled the checklist. So you won't be able to see it on Beckett or even, trading card database. So they actually were able to compile, in some cases with evidence, they actually were able to find the cards and be able to properly prove that this is the checklist for it. So they're the only documentarians that actually have it. So the grading companies use their checklists to validate and confirm these cards. So it's a great resource, obviously. But the answers that you seek are there as soon as you do that. And Panini only produced WWE cards in 3 years: 2022, 2023, and 2024. This most recent WWE Flawless is the last set. So it's maybe 15, 20 sets over 3 years. Again, it's not nothing, but at the same time, it's not like pick our sport of choice here, and most of them have like 30, 40, 50 sets a year. So in relative terms, it's actually a much easier thing to get your head around. But people ask the question before they even try to look it up. They don't even try.
Right, and that's part of, like, sometimes it's the question itself. Like,
Sure.
you just have to sit here and just ask yourself, are they being serious or are they trolling? And then I start reading the comments, and like I said, sometimes the answers to the question, and I'm not even talking about people trolling or being smart, smart asses or anything, legitimate people trying to answer, and then you read their responses and you're just like, holy hell, what are they actually telling this person? One of them, just as an example, one of them was, it was a grading question in one of the grading groups at SGC group, and it was about and they had a card with an auto grade on it, and then their card next to it without an auto grade, and they were like, why didn't mine get an autograph grade? And literally, if you looked at it, there was a big smudge in the autograph, and it's like, okay, that's fair. Maybe they didn't know that FGC only grades them in a 10. But then I start reading the comments, and it's like people are just making shit up trying to give answers. Oh, well, they don't put it on the label, but you can still go see the autograph grade and this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, what the hell are y'all telling this person? So that was just one example of many. But to your point, what's frustrating about it is many times people are, I guess the best way to describe it is, instead of taking a moment to review something or research something, they go instantly to social media, whatever platform, and just ask other people. And then they're believing in the answers that are given back to them, when we all know that some of the best ways to learn, yeah, asking questions, can be okay at times, but try to find the answer yourself first, because you literally can learn things. You might find something while you're looking for the answer and learn even more about it than you expected to, rather than just entrusting on the easy button, slap this on Facebook and people's going to tell me the answer. Because the answer may not always be right. And if you dive in and you do a little bit of digging yourself, it can actually benefit you. Just like you were talking about checklists and odds, and Eric mentioned it earlier. Sometimes people will buy a product, not have a damn clue what the product is, have zero clue of what's going to be in the product, and then complain because they spent $300 on a box that had absolute 6 cards of shit in it and want to know why.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
look it up.
Yeah.
So,
And so to that vein, so kind of touching on what you're talking about, so that we're all on the same page here. The conversation we had a couple of minutes ago about that ingrained set, we don't know what the checklist is yet,
right.
but we were able to make educated guesses based on the product, the specific brand, what their normal configuration is, which is confirmed. I was able to tell you it's 6 cards in a box, which is the same as the other ingrained. I was able to tell you it's 1 box per pack, which is the same as the other ingrained. So I'm able to infer certain things. So simply by knowing what the usual is for this, I'm probably not that far off. Even before I had seen that, I was pretty sure I knew what the configuration was. And then seeing it confirmed it because I got it from Upper Deck. I got that from the source. I went straight to that. That's where I got that in the first place. But then for the checklist, we won't know until we see the checklist final. And then we can look at it more closely and see, okay, so who did you include in this checklist? Where do these people fit in the pantheon? Whatever. But we can still make educated guesses because we have taken the time to learn these things over time. But to your point, a lot of folks I think it's almost become this thing where a lot of people just don't want to say, I don't know. And it's okay not to know. There's a lot of stuff like I'm happy to be a know-it-all. It's one of my great joys, but I don't know everything. Not even close. It's not possible.
Well, right.
It's really not possible. It's not possible at all. There's a ton
You
of
could
stuff like,
combine
I
all
genuinely
three
have
of
no
us.
idea. I don't know
You
that
could
set.
combine
I don't
all
know that
three of
brand. I don't
us
know that year.
and- Yeah. Eric, he knows the most, obviously. Then I
Obviously.
would put you and then myself. So I will put it in that order. But I think we could mash all of what all three of us know. We could put Bobby and mash it up, and Brad and mash it up. And we're not going to know everything. That's
There's
just,
still going to be blind spots. And that's
Yeah.
with them. Bobby covers a ton of the past. I kind of bridge the gap between a lot of these eras. Brad and does stuff with PSA, but then also has access to AMG. So they see the new, they see the old. And even with all that exposure, there's still blind spots. There's
Yep.
still, I
I
could tell
say
you
it all
guys,
the time, with what we get in, and I have a wonderful assortment of people that send us a wide variety of all different things. So I've seen a lot of stuff come. And Brad, he sees tons of stuff too. As a bulk submitter, you see a lot. You learn a lot. I almost every order I see something I've never seen before. I just had that little Yale paper guy from the 1890s. I've never seen one of them damn things before. There's always something out there that we're not going to know about. And that's for everybody. You're Dr. Carlos. I don't even think Dr. Beckett can say he knows everything. But I guarantee if he doesn't, he's going to try to look and try to figure things out because that's one way to learn.
he probably has a
And
few
it's okay
people
to
he can
ask
reach
a
out to.
question. It's okay to ask if you can't figure it out on your own. Like,
Yeah.
the whole thing with the Connor Bedard, what was that, a few weeks ago that I brought it up?
Yep.
I went and looked. I was still confused about it. We had the discussion in the text message and everything. There was still questions there, but I had went and tried to figure it out, and I was still confused with it. Eric was even confused with it again, and so that right there shows that it's okay, but at least try to learn. Try to look it up, because there's people out there that are going to give answers and they're going to sound legitimately like a good answer, but it might only confuse you more because they might actually not have known the correct answer. So,
Right. Yeah. So, but we use those examples. And then earlier in this episode, for your silly card of the week, you were wondering about the milk carton thing.
oh yeah,
Eric and I were able to give you a little background on that and be able to, funny enough, we were able to give that. So here you go. Here's the context behind that specific thing where it does actually make sense for
yeah, and
this character.
I'm not afraid to admit, I didn't have a clue. I just thought it was silly as hell. They put a piece of a milk carton in there, but I didn't know the context behind it, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I just thought it was a funny ass card that they used a milk carton. So,
And then for folks that didn't know, now you learned something.
Yep.
You've learned something you may not have been aware of. But like I said, to counter the whole idea and to go to the other end of the spectrum. So that was one series of questions, which again, I'm not outing anybody to give anybody any criticism. It's fine. You ask the question, I'll answer it generally to the best of my ability. I'll try to respond. But where it becomes, so I'll use an example of another one similar a couple of days ago, and it's where it gets frustrating. Really, where it really reaches peak frustration for me. They message on one of the videos that I did, and they asked, it's like, do you know if this character and this character, so this is on the wrestling channel, do you know if this character and this character are have autographs in this product? And I'm sitting there going like, I literally have a video on this channel, the channel that you are writing this comment on, a video where I specifically go into the checklist. That is, a video is titled, "We have a checklist for this product." And not only do I go through it on the screen, I give you a link to the checklist. I tell you where the checklist is. And by the way, the checklist link that I give you, you can download the Excel spreadsheet and search the checklist for any name you want. And the last tab is a master tab. You can literally do the name at the top and you'll be able to see every card that person has in the entire set. All the subsets, all the inserts, the odds, and the print run. So if you want to know what the print run is, answered. You want to know what the subset is, answered. You want to know what the odds of pulling it, Eric? There's a column for that where it tells you the odds in hobby, blaster, retail, all of it.
You know the funniest part too that we
A
didn't
lot
even
of
touch on?
information.
The funniest part about a lot of the comments, like the questions and posts or whatever, in some cases, it took them longer to write out
write
the
the question.
question and
Yes.
have the interaction back and forth than it would have if they just went and looked.
So Brandon, that's so to be clear, that's the reason I was frustrated. I want to make sure that and hopefully I'm not coming across the wrong way because I really want to make sure I'm getting this across the right way. I am always happy when someone actually legitimately has a question. They don't understand something and maybe we can explain it in a better way or try to give an example or something that can be useful. I don't mind doing that. We can be very curmudgeonly, but on this, I would much rather you ask the question sincerely and I actually have a chance to maybe give you an example or try to explain it in some way that might be helpful. But when it is, like I said, it was actually kind of insulting. The idea that on the very same channel that you're asking me this question, I provided you the answer. And it wasn't like you have to go deep in the archive because the product has just come out. And I just want to make sure I read this right. So I had two videos where I had opened up boxes of it. But yeah, here it is. January 14th, 2024 UD Allure AEW checklist has arrived. That is the title of the video that I made. And the entire video was dedicated to doing nothing more than going through elements of the checklist and giving you a link to the checklist. And it was on a video days later that I get asked the question about a specifically these two characters on there. Are they in the autograph checklist? It's like, yes, they are. That is the answer. The answer is yes, they are.
And it would have been a little bit more understandable if you hadn't have like posted the link or shared the link for the checklist and they said, do you by chance know where I could pull up the checklist or something?
That's a
that
completely
would have
different
been a
question.
bit more understandable or whatever.
Sure.
And I wonder sometimes if people don't know how to navigate the YouTube description or video description or something like that. So just trying to give a little devil's advocate on it. But yeah, there are some things that you just see out there that just, again, how the hell did we get here?
But that's the thing. Like all I'm asking in this case is again, and if anybody ever in these comment section wants to ask a question, by all means, I don't want to discourage you. But my only request,
leave us more comments.
Yeah, we like to get some. But I'm saying, like, all I'm saying, and I don't want to discourage you from asking questions or comments or whatever the case may be. My only request, and it's the only thing I ask, is that I would love for you to have at least taken a stab in the dark at it first. Take a stab at it. Because almost everything that I learned in this hobby is either by experiencing it myself, making the mistake myself, or figuring it out. Because 99% of the time, especially at the earlier days, I didn't have the ability to go somewhere and just ask somebody the question. Most of the time, we just didn't have that resource. It wasn't available.
Think of it this way, and this is for both of y'all. How do you find cards that in many cases you never had an idea that existed, but you came across them and liked them and wanted to add them to your collection?
So for me, it's videos, Instagram, various social medias, and also sometimes just trolling around on ComC, eBay, and something. I sometimes find stuff by accident. I'll be looking for something else, and maybe I'll see something related, and you'll discover something. I didn't know that was even a thing.
Yep.
That was my point that I was getting to back when I was saying sometimes when you take a moment to research, you might find even more than you expected, past beyond your answer. You might learn even more than what the answer to your question that helps you even further. So that's why I posed that, because in most cases, unless we know the card exists already, like from a checklist or something like that, we're coming across things that we didn't know existed by research, even browsing around ComC, we're essentially researching, we're looking for things. So we're trying to learn. And in many cases, you find new things all the time that we didn't even know existed.
I
Yep.
talked to you guys before the show started about how I just learned, these cards came out in 1983, and I just learned like a couple of days ago that the Steve Larmer card doesn't have his rookie card, doesn't have him on it, and it's actually Steve Ludzik, and Steve Larmer is actually on that card. So now I went out, I got the Steve Ludzik card. I taped both of these together in plastics, put little notes on them. Now I got them in my collection. And I think that I don't know, I had fun. I learned something new, something that's been around since 1984 and I had no clue about. And I had my Steve Larmer rookie card kicking around in a box all these years. Going, yeah, I got that Hockey Legends rookie card. Come to find out, it's not even him that's on it. So I corrected it, and now I just built this stupid little thing where, I mean, it's so stupid, right? But that's I had fun. And I got little notes on the bottom, and
I think you should really take a Sharpie and correct the last names.
Absolutely. 100%.
that's what I should do. Yeah, I should just
It's the right
cross
thing
them.
to do.
Yeah, but I mean, that's been like that since 1984, and I just found out about it the other day because I stumbled upon it. So that's usually how I find things that I haven't seen before. Or I learned something new.
And you work in a shop.
I sometimes
Supposedly work in a shop.
Yeah,
sometimes
allegedly. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife asked me the other day, when was the last time you went to work? And I went, I don't know, about a month ago. I don't know. Maybe I'll go in tomorrow. We'll see.
Eric, I made that proclamation 10, 15 years ago. Never took.
Yeah.
Never took. And they still don't acknowledge my retirement to this very day. It's very unfortunate. But anyway. So, yeah, the bottom line on this point, like I said, Brandon's statement kind of brought me down. I was thinking, because literally, I'm no joke, these questions came up literally in the last couple of days. And I was just sitting there, and again, it's not even I'm not even upset about it. It's just frustrating where I'm like, but you could have, it would have been just like 2 minutes. Because in order to pull if the shoe was on the other foot and I needed the same answer to the same question, it's like a 2-minute search. I didn't have to look very hard. I didn't have to ask anyone. I went to the Oracle of Knowledge, and the answers were that I sought were there. Especially, or in the case of the one example, I had already provided the answer to said question before you even asked it. I had actually given the resource, the place you were had the resource at hand and the link that you sought. It was all there. All you had to do was click on it, and you could download a copy, and you would have known everybody that was in the insert checklist, everybody that was in the autograph checklist, everybody that was in the base set. Some people are like, "Oh, but is so and so in the base set?" The answers that you seek are in the link.
Yep.
Sometimes you just wonder. Sometimes you just wonder. It's like, am I talking into a void? Like, am I speaking in tongues right now? Like, what are we doing? Like, I'm trying here. I'm trying. It's just, that's where it gets a little annoying. That's where it gets a little frustrating. It's like, if no one had said anything and the resources, if this was 1995 and we just don't have the resources, and maybe there's 1 or 2 message boards and you're taking a shot in the dark and hoping somebody's got the answer. Like today, man, we're getting the checklists. I was able to show you pictures of a product that isn't going to be out for months. That Engrained product, we won't know the checklist for a while. That checklist will come out a couple of weeks before release. We don't know when that's going to be. I'm guessing the summer. Maybe the fall. I don't know.
Of 2028.
Could be. But the point is, eventually we will get that checklist. And when we do, we'll be able to answer some of the questions we asked. We just asked the question in general terms. We said, I'd be curious to see what the checklist looks like. I wonder who's actually in the insert to whatever, which kind of level of players are going to be on it. We're not going to ask anybody yet because there's no reason to. When the checklist comes out, we'll get a chance to take a look. If we have questions after that, okay, now is a good time to ask. because I can't reach out and ask a couple of contacts and go, hey, what was the thought process behind this? I'll reserve judgment until I see the checklist. But we can offer opinions. That's okay. Given the caveat that our opinions are just opinions. We're open to changing our mind. Maybe it's the greatest checklist that's ever been devised.
That would be nice.
Yeah. It could, and guess what? If that turns out to be the case, credit will be given where it's due. If that's the case, then credit will be given where it's due. Hey, you know what? Maybe it is worth $300 or whatever it is. Maybe you guys are right. And if that's the case, great. It's just history has told me to be a little bit dubious, a little bit skeptical on that part, and to reserve judgment until we see the checklist. Then we'll get a better sense of where I think we land.
It does have icons in the name, so I'm expecting some Robertsons to be in there. So
Oh,
Could be. Yeah, the pump might be in full effect by then. Who knows? Who knows? So anyway, all right. So here's the thing: we're a little over an hour and a half. Do you want to skip the skeins because I think we already have a good full length episode. We covered a lot of different topics. Long story short, good luck to the conspiracy theorists on the skeins. That wasn't actually where we were going to go with it. But I'll leave most of the discourse honestly open-ended on that one. I'll leave it to be. I will actually do this at the end though. So Eric's angle for being Hall of Fame adjacent is still on. There's about a week left. So I think we're in the last week. So at the time this drops, we are days away from the end of this. And I have seen a little uptick in votes. I still think it's going to turn out the way I said it's going to turn out, by the way. I'm being honest. I think it's going to turn out the way it's going to turn out. But actually, let me workshop this with you guys. I got a question. My intention, so Eric, I want to kind of workshop this with you and Brandon. All right. So my intention was I really didn't want to participate in doing a ballot. To be honest, to be blunt, I'm kind of lazy. And I've run out of like my favorite ideas. But I'm going to say this. So number one, Eric is angling for being Hall of Fame adjacent.
yes.
It does mean a lot to him. So I don't know, Eric, is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do to send the right message by actually doing a ballot? Because I did actually had a little sprinkle of inspiration. I actually came up with a way of doing a ballot that would still be on brand. And it wouldn't take that long to set up because a lot of my better ideas were like, but it would take a bunch of setup. I actually came up with one that would be totally on brand and it would actually be fairly easy to do. So the question is, should I bother?
Yes, and vote for us.
I don't think we can vote for ourselves. Well, actually, I think there's nothing against the rules against voting for ourselves, is there?
Is the wrestling channel a year old?
No. Brandon, that'd be amazing. It's like, what? I'm voting for my own channel.
Yes, no.
Flips is a year old.
Sure.
No, that's what
I think I need a little more content from 540 Flips if you wanted that vote, is all I'm saying.
No, I'm
so,
saying.
All right, I got Eric's angle. Brandon, what do you think? Should I play along with? I actually came up with an idea, but it's a simple idea. It's actually straightforward.
Scott's this evening, and I thought, you know what? I participated in the past. I don't do a ton of videos anymore, but I do. I don't even watch a ton of content anymore. But to play along and just enjoy the hobby for the hobby, because I have been having fun again, collecting and all of that. I was like, maybe I could scrape something up. So maybe even I'll get one together.
You only got a couple of days left at the time this drops. So if
you need but maybe 6 minutes.
I'm not saying it takes a long time. I'm just look. I guarantee you, Brandon. I promise you, someone will be like, it'll take me 3 minutes, and it'll be like February the 1st. It's like fuck. It's like, dude, right. It would take you 3 minutes, but you actually have to do it. You have to give them 3 minutes.
You need to do it. You need to vote for us. I need to be Hall of Fame adjacent. I need to do my one-man kazoo parade down the street. Okay?
This means a lot to him, guys. This really does.
I'm telling you, I am going to content the hell out of this thing. I need it. I need it.
Wow. He used content as a verb, Brandon. He used it as a verb.
I need this in my life. Okay? I don't know if I can go on without it.
This is kind of a win-win for me. I got to be honest. It's kind of a win-win. So, either way, this could be pretty good. Like for the content gods, this is pretty good. I'm like kind of like where it's going.
So all right, I need this. You both need to make a video and just say, "Hi, this is me from this channel, vote for me. Boom, done.
Uh-huh. All right. So Brandon, I think I've got an idea. I think I'll cobble something together. I have a thought. I have a thought on how this could be pulled off. All right. Bougie Eric and his plea for Hall of Fame adjacency has convinced me. He has convinced me. I will play along. All right. So there you go. An early Christmas present to y'all. So we'll do it. All right. So with that said, I think we'll call this an episode. Very good. We covered a lot of ground, so hopefully people enjoy. And yes, what we said earlier, though, does apply. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions. I don't want to discourage you. But at the same time, my only ask is that if it's something that you can at least try to look up, by all means, please do. But if it's something you're still throwing you off or whatever, yeah, ask away. Feel free. Comments are also appreciated. Thoughts, opinions and things. And if there's things that you'd like us to discuss or talk about, I'd love to get those ideas. And definitely participate in the silly card of the week because that'll be a community post. But yeah, I would like to get some questions and things like that and comments in there as well, because it is helpful. It does help us to get a little bit of back and forth with you and also see what you kind of want out of what we're doing. So those are those things. And then, like I said, in a couple of weeks for the Super Bowl, there will be a live. I will put a placeholder in there in the days coming up. Go ahead, Eric.
And if you're eligible to vote for YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame, please vote for us. It is extremely important.
Indeed. So Brandon, Bobbles and Ball cards and 540 flips. Eric, send us into Orr. You may send all your hate mail to send us into Orr. Also, remember to hit the like button. He pays for it. That is continuing in 2025. Unabated. It's going to be very exciting. More videos coming up on the channel and lives on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The longest running episodic, whatever it is, we don't know. It is a work in progress. We'll see if we can figure it out. So for us, that's it. BIC 113. Catch you in the next one.